In this presentation, we will look at basic color theory and how we can use this information to better communicate color and determine ways that we can use this information to make better use of color tools. So what is color? Color is the quality of an object with respect to the light that is reflected from the object or emitted from an object. Color is a perception, and color is personal. Each of us perceives color in an absolute different way. Very simply put, you need to have light in order to have color. Color is contained in light, so without one, we do not have the other. The first person to realize that white light was comprised of all the colors of the rainbow was Sir Isaac Newton. He took a narrow beam of bright sunlight, passed it through a prism, and was able to project the colors of the spectrum onto the wall. So let's take a look at the light spectrum. The colors of the rainbow shown here are red, orange, yellow, green, blue, and violet. These colors are the human visible spectrum. These are the light rays that the human eye can perceive. On either side of that, we have the infrared color spectrum and the ultraviolet. These are light sources, but they're not visible by the human eye. Red light is a long wave light form. Violet light is a short wave light form. When these pass through the prism, the different wavelengths cause the light to bend at different degrees, which is what gives us this spectrum that we can see when light passes through the prism. In order for us to see light, we would have an object that would be illuminated by, we call it a wide spectrum light. That's light that contains all the different colors. When that light hits the object, some of the light frequencies are absorbed by the object. Other light frequencies are reflected from that object. The light that is reflected from that object is received by our eye. It's converted by the nerves to a signal that is sent to the brain. We take that information and process it to what we understand to be color. We said earlier that we can see color when light bounces off an object and we perceive it with our eye. The light that illuminates the object that we want to see is called the illuminant. The illuminant can change. Bright sunlight contains a wide range of bright colors. It gives us the widest range of colors that we can see. A candle, for example, emits light that's very heavy in the red and yellow hues. And if you look at objects that are illuminated with that color, the objects appear warm. They have a yellow kind of reddish glow. Artificial light also has limited spectrum. You ever find it difficult to determine if an article of clothing is blue or black? And then only to go outside in the sun and realize, oh, it's not what I thought it was. So we previously discussed the color of the illuminant. We referenced the color of an illuminant in the color temperature. That's done on a Kelvin scale here. It's measured in degrees. Our example of the candle you can see here has a Kelvin color temperature of about 1500 degrees Kelvin. Daylight, for example, has a Kelvin temperature of about 6500 to 7500 degrees Kelvin. In our example of the clothing, if, for example, our room was lit with incandescent light, you can see that's in the 2680 degree range. But you can also see that that illuminant has very little blue light. If we don't have blue light in the aluminum, we can't see blue light in the reflection that we get off of that illuminant, and that's why a lot of times the dark blue will appear black. We can also see that depending on the illuminant, the color may appear to be a different color than it is. That phenomenon is called metamerism. The exception to viewing color through reflected light is light and color that's created by the emittance of lights. This is the case with TV screens, monitors. Think about anything that you could see in the dark is creating its own light source. Because they're creating their own light source, they are much less susceptible to variations in color due to an illuminant. One of the things about a monitor, for example, is they will always appear brighter than printed images. Printed images, the brightness there is limited to the brightness of the illuminant and the ability of the substrate, paper, or whatever media you're using, its ability to reflect light. We said previously that color is a perception. So color only exists in our brains. We do have light that exists at different frequencies. When we receive that by our eyes, convert it to signals that our brain processes, that's when we really determine it to be a color. Each of us processes this information differently, and in fact, some people are incapable of processing color. They are colorblind. So, are you colorblind? On the left side of this screen here are some color blindness tests. Each of these textured patterns have letters and numbers embedded in them in different colors. If you're unable to see the colors in any or all of these images, you are probably colorblind. You're not able to determine one color from another in these specific color ranges. So if you've looked at the color blindness test and you realize that you're not colorblind, now how about the perception of color? If there's any doubt in your mind that color is a perception, think back on this internet sensation that said, what color is this dress? And you may look at this dress and say, how can you think it's anything other than what I see it as? But people see and perceive color differently. So let's have some fun with our perception of color. Here we have a diagram. In that diagram, we have a checkerboard pattern, and we have one square marked with the letter A, one square marked with the letter B. So which of the following statements are true? Square A is darker than B, square A is lighter than B, or both square A and B are the same color. So the correct answer here is C, both square A and B are the same color. I've gone ahead and removed the influencing factors on this illustration. I've drawn a colored box that spans both the squares, and you can see that indeed both of these squares are the same color. So here we have a new illustration. On the image on the left, which of the following is true? The left dog is lighter than the right dog. The left dog is darker than the right dog. Or C, both dogs are the same color. So the correct answer here is C, both dogs are the same. Removing the background, the influencing factor, you can see that these two items are indeed exactly the same. So we've just seen that based on an individual's ability to perceive color and their own personal biases towards color, they're going to interpret color differently. We've also seen that the environment, that includes the light and surrounding colors, also play a role in the way that we perceive color. In the illustration to the right, we see we have a big fan of yellow chips there. If we ask 5 different people to pick a yellow chip, I'm pretty sure we'd probably have close to 5 different yellow versions. So how do we quantify or communicate color to other people? We can get a lot of specific color information by measuring color by using a device called a spectrophotometer. This will give us color information that we can use in lots of different ways. While spectrophotometers can be quite expensive, there's a number of phone apps out there that do a really good job of capturing color and provide you color information that you can use as well. When we first view a color, the first attribute of that color that we notice is the hue. So the hue is a term for where that color falls on the spectrum, whether it be red, orange, yellow, green, blue, violet, and so on. In the scale at the bottom here, we can see that we have the full spectrum of colors. And at each end, we have a red. So if we put these two ends together and formed a circle, that's one way that we can refer to color hue. Another attribute of color is the saturation. Saturation describes the purity of a specific hue. Saturation can also be described as the intensity of a color. So the last attribute of color that we have here is the brightness. Brightness is a scale from no brightness, which is a black, to full whiteness, which is a bright white. Brightness can also be called lightness, or in some other cases, it's known as the value. So with the color attributes that we just identified, we now have the ability to use those in a color model. So this is an HSB color model, which is hue, saturation, and brightness. So I like to visualize this as a cake. If you take a look at this cake, the first issue would be the hue. If we look at the 3 o'clock position, you can see that is red. That is represented by a value of 0 and 360 at the same place. If we rotate clockwise around that cake, for example, if you get to the 60 degrees, that's going to be a yellow. 90 degrees will give you a green. 180 degrees will give you a blue. 270 degrees straight up at 12 o'clock is going to give you like a violet. And then if we rotate all the way back around to the 3 o'clock position, we now have a value of 360 and virtually the same red as we did at 0. On this model, we have saturation. Think of the middle of this cake as having no color at all. As we move from the middle of the cake to the perimeter, the colors are going to become more pure or more saturated. A 0 value for saturation would have no color value, up to 100%, which would be at the perimeter of this circle, which would be our most saturated colors. The last attribute of color is the brightness. So if we look at this as a layer cake, the very, very bottom layers are going to have a brightness value of 0, essentially pure black. As we move upwards in this cake, we're going to increase the brightness value till we get to the very top layer of the cake, which would have a brightness value of 100%, which is pure bright white. So using the HSB color model, we have a couple random color samples here. So using the data points labeled in these colors, you can kind of visualize where these fall on our HSB color model. You say, oh, wait a minute, I'm using RGB or CMYK. Those are both color modes, and those are what we call device-specific color modes. For example, CMYK requires a CMYK device for those values to have any meaning whatsoever. Computer programs and software programs use a non-device specific color model to create the colors on a device-specific color model. So in other words, it takes the color that you want, calculates what it needs to do in order to print it on your device or display it on your device. So here we have black and white. Technically speaking, black and white are not colors. Black is the complete absence of light, where white is a 100% reflection. In the HSB values here, you can see that for hue we have 0. Remember, 0 on our hue scale is not no color, but in fact it is red. The saturation value moving from the middle of the model outwards shows us that we have a saturation of 0, which is achromatic, no color. In the case of the black, the brightness is 0. In the case of the white, the brightness is 100%. Let's take a look at some overall color adjustments to an image based on the HSB values. In this image, we have an original image top center, and then lower left we have an image that's been adjusted -20, and then to the right, an image adjusted +20. The first thing that we can notice about this image, and this is to a global hue change, on the -20 you can see that the skin tones have gone from a neutral to a very pink, and in the +20 slide you can see that the skin tones have actually gone to a very green shade. In the sky on the -20 image, you can see the sky is far less red, kind of a more neutral blue color. And on the +20 image, you can see that the sky is considerably redder than it is in the original. These overall hue changes can give you some undesired results. Here we're going to take a look at the overall adjustment to saturation. In the -30 image, we can see that the saturation of this image has been reduced. If you completely remove all saturation from the image, you would end up with a grayscale image. On the +30 image, you can see that the colors are more vibrant, more saturated than they are in the original image. Sometimes in images, this can create problems where colors get compressed and you end up with what appears to be pixelation. In this image, we can see a change to the brightness of an image. The -30 value of the image had the brightness removed by 30. You can see that it makes a big difference in the image. It looks quite dark and dirty. On the +30 image, what you're doing is increasing the brightness to the point where the image actually looks washed out. We saw in the previous slides that making global changes to your project or same changes through the entire image will result in some changes and that you may not want. Most graphic editing programs will allow you to make selections. That way you can apply changes to selections or color only. That'll let you fine-tune your results and get the results you want for very specific areas. If you're compiling images, a lot of times it's better to take and create swatches that you can use. That'll let you use the same color throughout the image. That'll give you color consistency. It is possible to have two colors that appear similar on screen, but when they're processed for printing, they will result in different output, which will give you two different looks on your final print. If you're creating your own graphics or you're editing your own graphics, you may want to spend some time to learn how to use your color editing program to make best use of color management. Any time that you spend learning your graphics software will pay back several times over again. On this slide here, we have some very common graphic editing programs. Depending on what you have available to you, any one of these would suffice to edit graphics.